So, we are back at one of the pillars that we've not actually, one of the 4 foundational pillars of this podcast. We haven't addressed it at all. We want to talk leadership.
Time to tap on a little bit of leadership. I think we should simplify leadership.
Welcome back to the Veterinary Business Accelerator, the podcast for ambitious practice owners who want more time, more profit, and a business that doesn't rely solely on them. This episode is our first exploration into leadership, but instead of overwhelming you with a ton of theory or a 39-step framework of what you should do to be a better leader, Sam flips the script and asks, what if leadership is more about what you stop doing? Huge topic. I've been in all sorts of roles. I've been in leadership roles, and I obviously talk to a lot of people in leadership roles, but also in the other side of the fence. And I feel like when you talk to employed vets or employees of veterinary clinics, and even just going on the social networks and see the chat there seems to be the same sort of patterns of stuff that people complain about. We're like, yeah, my boss tries, but when they do this, when they do that. Can you give us some guidance today, Sam? What are the things that bosses do that demotivates their teams?
Yeah. Well, I think what happens is when we're running events, we put up, these are all the things you need to do as a leader. And this is like, 39 things. And you can see people just sitting there, just sort of shrinking down and dropping about 2 vertebrae in height and thinking, I'm screwed. I can never do all that. Puts them so far into overwhelm that I think they just go back to their day to day and go, all right, I'll keep doing it. So I reckon we approach this from a different angle because I'm a big fan of simplifying things into something that's relevant for where you're at. And there's 2 ways you can approach this. Things you should start doing, and I'll learn a new thing, or things you can stop doing. That's actually causing a negative impact. So I thought we'll approach this instead of the things you should be doing. Let's run through, and I've just sort of thought about from what we see, the 9 most common things that I see in people in leadership positions that is demotivating to the team. So maybe if we can just do a little bit less demotivating, by nature, that'll make it a little bit more inspiring, a little bit more motivating for the team. So that's why I thought we'd roll today.
I like this approach. It's a bit like, if you want to get fit and weight loss, there's all the advice out there. You've got to start doing this and start doing Pilates or CrossFit. Or for a start, you could just stop eating all the biscuits.
Yeah. Just stop when you're going shopping, doing it when you're hungry. Like jam yourself chocker full of bloody celery and carrots and goodness knows what, then go shopping and you'll end up with good shit in your basket.
Okay, well, let's go.
I think everyone gets so overwhelmed with leadership because I think leadership gets painted as some magical, mystical, incredible skill set that's only 3.5 people on the planet have ever mastered. And it's such BS and it drives me nuts. So I just thought, let's just break it down and go, let's make it something that's achievable for everybody. In leadership, there's only, as I see, really 3 mandates, 3 things in leadership you actually need to do. The first one is you've got to have an idea or you've got to have a thing or a mission or something that I want to achieve this. Now, I can't do it all by myself, so I need a few people to help me. So I need to be able to clearly articulate what the thing is. So we can call it a mission. We can call it, why do you exist? So I think number 1 is you got to have a game to play and be clear about what that game is. Number 2, you've got to be able to recruit people to your cause. Bring some people on. If I'm going on a surf trip, I'm like, hey, I'm going on a surf trip. We're going to the Maldives and it's going to be really sexy and it's going to be no one else there other than the 9 mates you're with and it'll be crystal clear waters and I'm providing leadership. I've got an idea. I want a gang to go with me and I'm starting to recruit people to that cause. So we need to clearly, that's the second mandate, is find people who are attracted to your cause. And the third thing you need to do, the third mandate as a leader, is you have to create an environment that allows people to do their very best. And when we say very best, it's what we call discretionary effort. So normal effort is if you're at McDonald's and I'm going to pay you $10.14 an hour and this is exactly what you need to do. That's great. And you do that, you get paid your $10.40 an hour. It's like contractually what you have to do. Discretionary effort is everything above that, where you're bringing more energy, you're smiling more at people, you're having some jokes with them, you're saying, is there anything else I can do for you today? That's discretionary effort. And good leadership will create an environment that people voluntarily want to give discretionary effort. So they're the sort of three mandates of leadership. If you just think about it, it's really simple. It's just like, well, have you got a mission? Have you got something you're trying to get people to do? Are you clear around that? Why are you doing it? And how do I find the right people? And third, how do I create the right environment? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And all I'm going to do is approach from give you 9 things that these things will be causing demotivation within a team. It will be detracting from that environment that allows people to do their very best work.
Okay, so we're not covering the cause and we're not covering finding the people today. It's basically the last one. How do you make your team not just McDonald's workers who want to do the bare minimum to not get fired?
Yeah. And you think about leadership. The challenge of leadership is you're wanting everyone to think like you, which is kind of insane, really, isn't it? But I think I want to be a good leader, I think, is about creating an environment that everybody is understanding what the target is, what the goal, what the outcome is, what the mission is. And every person is thinking, what is my unique skill sets that I can add the most amount of value towards us achieving that? So if it's a footy team, someone's really good at kicking goals, someone's really good at packing a scrum, someone's really good at a line out, all after the same outcome. We want to get the most points on the board. How can I bring my very best? And that's good leadership. If you provide that, you'll generally do better.
Can we get the Wallabies coach to listen to this episode to see if he can implement this in the Wallabies, please? Because they clearly lack that.
Obviously, I just jumped on YouTube and listened to him, didn't it? I just thought I'd grab that. And I'm thinking for listeners as you're listening, if you just want to think how you're going, just give yourself a little 1 to 10, how you're going in each of these areas. So let's kick off. So the first big demotivator I see is a lack of clarity. What's this all about? And if this is the team really having no idea what the clinic stands for, where it's going, what does great look like? If we don't have a hill to climb, it's like, well, the impact or the outcome is people will just turn up and survive. So if you have an environment where you feel people are just turning up and surviving, as a leader, that will come down to clarity. And that hasn't been communicated in the team. So the collar is, I will always go, if you don't have clarity and you haven't articulated the team, I can tell you it's a demotivating team. They're less likely to do discretionary effort. So what do? Well, just having a thinking about why do you really exist? What's your real purpose? And if you think about a vet practice, what are we really in? Are we in the business of increasing animal health and things like that? It's like, yeah, but why? Because it makes a human happier. So I personally believe that veterinary science, it's different to production animals, I get it, but generally in companion animal, we're in the business of adding value to people's happiness, because that bond of a pet is, it's off the charts what it does. My wake-up call every morning is the door opens and someone's obviously let the dog in, and the dog comes in and bounces around on top of him and actually sits on my face until I wake up and take her for a walk, like literally a little miniature schnauzer. She's nuts. And I look forward to it. If anyone else came and sat on my face every morning to wake me up, I'd probably not be so stoked. But, so this yeah, we're leaving that right. That's a different podcast. That's a different podcast. So I think that bond is just so massive. I look at it and go, our job, we're actually contributing towards the happiness of humans through looking after animals. So being clear about what you're about. And when you're recruiting people, not that we're talking about recruiting people today, if you can't clearly articulate, this is what we're about, this is why we exist, this is what we're trying to achieve, everything we do is aimed towards achieving this one thing. If you don't have that, you'll be like everyone else, and then it becomes hard to know which practice should I work out. If you've clearly nailed that thing, that's something intangible. It's something like sort of visceral that you can grab hold of. It's like, whoa, you can feel the meaning and the purpose behind it. That's when people will start giving discretionary effort, because they're like, this is about a cause bigger than me. So that's number one, just being clear.
Can I pause there, Sam? I think about this one a lot, because all the other business books talk about the big why, how important that is for a business to be clear on your why we hear the goal. And it feels like it's baked into vet practice. I often go like, well, it's not important because we know why we're here. We're here for animal health, to make animals better. And it's so interesting that you say, it is, but not really. The why is actually for the people. And I think a lot of veterinary staff struggle with that a little bit. We think we're there to make animals better, and the clients are almost just an annoying thing you have to deal with to be able to get your job done. And it's interesting that you have a different viewpoint. And then my next question is, how do you get clear on that? It's easy to say be clear, but in practical terms, how are you very clear on that from interview phase all the way through to running the practice?
Well, I think the reason that clarity is important is I agree with you that most people think I'm here wholly and solely to make the animal feel better. Why? Because I'll feel better about myself. That's what's kind of motivating to most people. They join for the love of animals and fixing animals. But if that was the case, we could just get rid of humans and that would be a lot easier because we can just handle with the animals all day. Unfortunately, when you're in a commercial enterprise where there's exchange of value, this funny little thing called currency or money, you've kind of got to tie it back to the person that's paying the money. Well, we're existing to help them with their animals. And the reason that I tie this back to humans is if you think about customer service, you think about the client experience. If you didn't really care about the client that much, you're 100% just there for the animals, then how you turn up for the client is not that important. It's like, hey, I fixed your animal, give me some money. But that's not contributing to their happiness. So I think all roads lead to Rome is in a commercial enterprise, I say, well, who's paying the bill? Right, well, how are we adding value that person sees the value? And if you can expand that value, you are more valuable to them. So I think this is why, as a leader, if you don't get this clarity, you're leaving it up to what people just decide, then you are the sum of the average. And it's quite hard to get people to understand, oh my gosh, we're here to create happiness in humans. We love animals, we love fixing them. But we're here to actually help add value to the humanity. How do you get clear on it is really interesting. It's called sort of staring into space or navel gazing and going, what is it that really makes me feel good about it? Now, I know what makes me really feel really good when I was being a vet and fixing animals, and you'd get an animal that was crooked and you'd have that feels great. But to me, the big payoff was seeing the interaction between the animal and the human when it was returned to their arms. And I got goosebumps, my gosh. And it's that you feel like you've done something that is beyond you. It's bigger than you. And this is hardwired into us as humans, that the need to, we're so gregarious and we want to be around other people. We want to add value to other people naturally. You can't help it. When you do something good to someone else, you can't help but feel good. It's inherently wired into us. Yes, there's a few people who trundle off and don't follow that, but the vast majority of people are hardwired to feel good when they do something for someone else. And this is a leader's decision. I don't think they can sit with the team and go, why do you think you're here? And I, as a business leader, I would want to be very clear about why you exist, because you're the leader, you're the one that's paying the bills, you're the one that's set the whole thing up. And then get clear on what it is, and then ask with the team, what do you guys think? But I think it's like values and why you exist really need to stem from the business owner, because business creates from thought first, emotions, and then actions. And this is why a business leader that's really clear will find it easier in leadership because someone's either aligned with that ideology or they're not.
So how do you communicate that? How do you get clear with the team? Is this something you discuss in an interview or meetings or?
Well, nice little segue. Have you found my notes here? The second most common thing in the veterinary space that's demotivating is poor communication. Now, we're all doing some communication, but the question is it enough? We do a 360 survey of every business we work with, which means the team give feedback on how the leader's doing. So it's the opposite. And it's the one that practice owners are so nervous about this. Like, they're like, okay, we've got your results. Let's all sit down. And they're like, oh, I feel sick. I don't want to do this. It's hilarious. Because it's real time it's the mirror of how they're seeing you turn up as a leader. And generally it's that I don't feel like I get communicated enough. And the sort of impact is like, well, why wasn't I told? That's kind of the culture. That's the impact of it. So communication as a leader, good leaders will be clear about what they're about, and they will just talk about it, and they'll talk about it, and they'll talk about it, and they'll talk about it, and they will feel like a broken record. But that's what it is. It's just literally keeping the central theme the central theme. So number one, being prepared to keep saying, hey, what are we all here for? So if we look at what you do, you'll be really clear about why do you run the Vault? Why do you run the Vault podcast? If I look at and go, what do? We're here to help people create extraordinary lives. Now, we do it through business coaching. We do it through mentoring. But the reason we do it is because we want to help people create lives they didn't think were possible. That's our jam. That's the real game we're playing. And so when we're recruiting someone, here's what our ad will sound like. Want to come and change an industry forever? Young or old, if you've got the stuff, we'll know. Now, that is so bold and aggressive. It's not a job. It's like a calling. It's like a purpose. And the sort of people we get who respond to that, they're like, I don't know what was about that ad. And I haven't advertised for years for someone to work with us. What we find is people just turn up. But it's because we're very clear around our purpose, very clear about why. And so communication needs to be, when you start out and it's just you and the receptionist. I remember back in our start day, there was me, and I turned up, and day one, this girl called Elise turned up, and her job was to turn up for an interview. And the interview went for 20 minutes. And then I said, I hope you brought lunch because you're staying. And off we went. And not that I recommend interviews should go like that, but day one. So it's pretty easy to communicate with two of you or three of you because you're constantly back and forth, back and forth. It's what we call on-court coaching. You give instant feedback. As the business grows, it gets harder and harder to do. So you're going to have to start building structures into that. We talk about the minimum should be a daily huddle, which is just those that are on the ground. Right, guys, what's going on? Who's doing what? Boom, boom, boom. It's like the 30-second chat before a team goes on the field. So a daily huddle, 5 minutes, that's it. No coffee break. No, you're not going to get a cup of coffee. Have it standing and do it at like 9:04. And a bell goes at 9:04, and those that are available there, those that can't, they have to find out later. So a daily huddle, and then really an allocated time. If you've got business partners, really it should be a minimum of a fortnightly sitting down and strategizing. These are the three things I want to cover today. So you're prepping before you get and having a conversation. Really, a team meeting, when you're a smaller team, up to sort of 10, 15, you want to be having a team meeting. Really, it's probably weekly, even if it's just for half an hour, at a minimum fortnightly. When people say we have a team meeting once a month, it's not enough. It's not enough. So what you're thinking about is this feedback loop of messages going down and messages coming back. And if you don't have that consistently, here's what happens. Messages stop going down. So people down who are not making management decisions, just guessing, and they don't bother feeding stuff up because nothing ever seems to happen. It's a very corporate culture. And we see it in corporates. The most common thing when people leave, they go, there's just no communication. I had no idea what's going on. So communication, and I'm not going to get in the different channels of how you do it. Obviously, that's a big thing. But if your team are not clear about where you're going, why, and what their role is in it, then I would say you don't have very good communication. We could probably dial in on communication. So what you want to think is just regular frequency. So not we've got a problem, let's have a chat. Nope, it's a touch base. It's like, how are we going? It's a temperature check. Yeah. So third most common demotivator, I think, is trying to be the smartest person in the room. These aren't necessarily in order, by the way. But how does this look like? It looks like micromanagement. It's the attitude, I'll just do it myself because it's faster and easier. It's a fear of what if they make a mistake? It's thinking it's your job to have a solution to every problem. So what happens is it's almost like you create a vortex that all energy goes up, all decisions come to you. Now, if you're a business and you're an owner, and you're like, oh, why don't people just make up their mind and do stuff and sort stuff out themselves? You have created it. It's your desire to be the person who solves all problems that has created it. And this is demotivating for people, not from their thinking, oh, that really annoys me, but it demotivates people's need for autonomy to actually develop and grow and get to do their own thing. So being okay that things don't always work out is completely normal. And if you want to grow, when you start out, you're 100% in technical, so you're the vet and you're doing all that stuff and management's not there, leadership's not there at all. And then as your business grows, there's more, that scale tips and you'll end up doing less and less technical and more providing that leadership. And your job as the leader is to coach people. Your job as the leader is to sort of coax the wisdom out of the team and let the team start to trust that they have their own zones of genius. Now, if you're the person who's fearful about things not working, you won't do that because you'll never let them learn, which is kind of like putting a kid on a bike and thinking they must never fall off. They're going to fall off the bike. That's how they learn. And you need to be okay that your job often is just to pick up the bike and put them on and say, it's okay, go again. What did you learn? And 3 words that are really useful for someone when they're coaching someone is, who's got an idea to improve their particular area by 10%? I want you to just write everything down. So brainstorming is a really great way to pull out this collective wisdom of your team. And you can do it with Post-it notes, you can do it with a flip chart, you can do it with whiteboards, it doesn't matter. But what you're trying to do is initially is give a framework of, hey, we've got this thing, we've got this opportunity or this challenge, give me your ideas and just write them down. Write them down. Don't talk them out, because if you ask people for their ideas, introverts generally won't cough up. And they often have the best ideas because they're often thinkers and they're watching because they're not so busy yabbing away like me and talking, and you'll lose their collective wisdom. So often actually getting them to write down and give them some time to think about it is a good idea. And then when they bring something up, you go, that's great, and what else? And your 3 favorite words are, and what else? And what else? And what you're doing is when you say what else, you're validating, I'm interested in more of your ideas. And this is where people start feeling more comfortable and thinking deeper because they feel safe to do it. That's a great way of just pulling out collective wisdom. So if you think about, if you don't have a crisis, you might sit down and go, okay, we don't have a crisis to solve. We just want to get the edge. So here's what we want to do. If everybody could increase their thing they do and make it 10% better, so 10% better client experience, or a 10% better for the pet, or a 10% better financially, or 10% more efficient, what would you do? And you just get them to write down, and then of course you discuss and you go which ones make sense and don't make sense, and then off they go to the races. It's their job to then go and implement it. And what you've done is you've included them in that creative process. You haven't been the smartest person in the room, you've just been a facilitator. And this is motivating for people because they're like, it's mine. I'm creating this thing. I'm part of it. I'm not just being told what to do.
Do you find that your coachees, they get engagement from their teams in this sort of process? Because I've heard it discussed a lot as a frustrator. I experienced it a bit as a leader, that you have all these ideas and you want to do these sort of things, and then the team's just like, not my problem to make the business successful. I'm here to do the vet stuff. Or is that just individuals? Or is that wrong recruitment? Or how do we deal with that? I actually saw a conversation the other day on a group chat where that was the discussion, was how do you get your team engaged? And a lot of employed vets said, it's your problem to make the business succeed. I'm going to do the work, and the structure's there, and I'm just going to come and do the work. But worrying about the success of the business is not my worry. That's why I don't own a practice. I don't want to worry about that stuff.
We talk about the biggest thing that is demotivating for people. It's a lack of clarity, and the impact of that is people just turn up and survive. So a vet just saying it's not my problem, that's turn up and survive.
Okay.
That's because they haven't bought into their part of doing something great and it's meaningful, generally. And I mean, as a leader, your job is to make people feel like they're part of it. So little lines like, hey, Hugh, I really value your thoughts around this. I think you've got a lot of things that you don't say. They're bloody valuable. I'd love to hear them. Those sort of things, like you've got to kind of draw it out of people. That's almost learned helplessness that, hey, it's not my problem to make the business successful. That's a learned helplessness. And that's come from leadership. So unfortunately, I see these chats that go on and I don't engage in them because I'd be there forever. It kills me. I hate seeing how many employed people are just having a crappy time because the environment hasn't been created in order to do their very best. Why? Because there's not someone who's made it their job to create that environment. That's pretty much it. And I'll jump straight to number 9 that I had in my list because it fits in here. That's demotivating for people. And it's environments where leadership is avoided or abdicated, as in like, oh, well, I'm just not a leader. I just don't do that. If there's zero ownership at the top, there's going to be zero ownership at the bottom. And it's probably one of the most common ones is the thought process, I'm not a very good leader, therefore I'll avoid doing things that a leader would naturally do, such as having a courageous conversation. That was number 4, I think, is allowing behavior to occur that is not adding value to the culture and avoiding having that conversation because I might upset someone. They might leave. What if I get in trouble legally from something or other? Not taking that leadership position is what we see probably causes more stagnation in a practice than anything. And here's what's happening. The damage to the rest of the business, the impact of that is the team is sitting and watching and thinking, why won't they do something about this? Why is that person allowed to do that? The classic scenario of avoiding what we call a courageous conversation, which is very demotivating for teams, because teams are observing the behavior and thinking, this isn't great. And often it's your highest performing person in the business. And you'll know when this is a problem because the term, you got to kind of tread around eggshells around them. You hear that kind of phrase. And that's not okay because it is creating an environment that's stopping other people do their best work. And I've seen people avoid this for I'm not kidding, I think the best case was 20 years. And it was like, right, we've got to deal with this. Well, what if they leave? I know. I can tell you what'll happen. The team will all step up the day after this has been dealt with, whether they leave or whether it just gets dealt with. Because what the team is doing is learning to trust that there is leadership if there's certain values that aren't being kept and it's being addressed. Hey, we're going to address this now. Why? Because the standard that you walk past is the standard that you accept. And whatever you accept, expect that to continue on. So when I hear people directing negative feedback towards their team, all I'm hearing is that there's a leadership position that maybe you're not having conversations that you need to have. And it's a thing that vets, because we love being loved, we're so nervous about having as a conversation that might seem a little bit confronting. And there's a 9-step process that we do that walks people through that you prep for those discussions before you have them. And if you do that, 9 out of 10 will go incredibly well. 10%, well, they're just Muppets and it's just not going to go that well because they're just Muppets, and that happens too. But avoiding it, and if you're listening now and you're a business owner, I'm going to guarantee there's something that you're avoiding in that business around leadership. My challenge to you is to go and have a look at that and deal with that effectively and quickly, or get help to someone help you with it, because the rest of your team's watching. They're watching.
I read a quote the other day that I wrote down for myself because I'm one of those, like everybody. I don't like the conflict conversations. But the quote says, the thing that you want is hiding behind a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
We're going to leave it here for this session. Join us next time as Sam picks up on the last 4 demotivators, starting with this bombshell.
If I hear a practice and they say, we've got such a lovely team, happy team, everyone's been here for 15 years, I can tell you what the net profit on average of that business is. And it's normally about 12 to 13%, maybe 15% best.